Good morning. Welcome to our information session from University of California, Irvine. I'm Dr. Susan Tiso. I am the program director for the DNP program, professor here, and a family nurse practitioner. And I am proud to introduce my colleague, Dr. Tiffany Nielsen.
Hi, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dr. Tiffany Nielsen. I'm also a family nurse practitioner and faculty here at UCI and part of the DNP program. And we're excited to have you here today. Hope everyone had an easy time logging in. Just a few housekeeping things. Please use the question and answer format to ask any questions. You can go ahead and do that throughout our presentation. And if you are having any technical difficulties, you can go ahead and use the chat box for that and inform us, and we can try and address your issues. We have Tina here from our Student Affairs department, and she will be screening through your questions, and we'll be answering them at the end. So let's get started.
Okay.
So we're really excited to tell you about our new DNP online program here at UCI. And we realize that there's a lot of different programs to choose from throughout the nation. And we want to tell you why we think you should choose UCI. So Susan, do you want to tell our listeners a little bit more about why UCI is what we think is one of the better programs?
Okay, so I would love to talk about why you would choose UCI as a DNP program for your next educational mission. We've been educating nurse practitioners here at UCI since 1995, so we've got a lot of experience in that arena. We have had a 100% pass rate on national board certification exams, which is really quite a impressive number.
That's been over 20 years.
Right.
That is really impressive.
Yeah, I read some statistics yesterday online, and it said about 20% of students, as many as 20%, do not pass on their first round. So 100% first time, really a big shout out. One of our faculty here, are very committed to student success. And I think that's really important for students when they're thinking about what program that they want to choose. Our faculty truly take the journey with students, and it is a journey when you begin a doctoral program.
Yes.
It's not a small undertaking, and they really walk the walk with students. Well, our faculty here, we have experienced faculty that are both research faculty and clinical faculty. I think that really adds a richness to what we can deliver to students in our curriculum. So that's I think really important for students to look at that piece. We have faculty here at UCI that are actively practicing in clinics. So we've got 7 faculty who are in clinics around the Orange County area in the UC Irvine healthcare system. And students practice with us side by side while they're here. Tiffany works in one of our federally qualified health centers in Anaheim. Tiffany, tell our listeners a little bit about your practice. Students love to spend their time with Tiffany, and they learn so much at your site.
So at the clinic I work at, it's in Anaheim, as Susan mentioned, and it's a federally qualified health center. So we our care is directed towards the underserved. Primarily, like 80% of our population is Hispanic, Spanish speaking, and these patients sometimes have had no medical care for years and years and years, and they finally come into the UCI system, and we get them, and we have to take care of a lot of complex medical issues that have been brewing for a long time. So it's a really good experience for the students to really dive in and take care of these complex patients and address multiple problems, and so they get a really good, rich experience there. And I primarily do a same-day access clinic. My background is in emergency medicine, so we really try and give access to those patients that have been waiting a very long time to see somebody.
Yeah, and students, as I said, they really learn from Tiffany, really working side by side with her.
And Susan, she also is in practice here at Godchalk on campus. Susan, you want to tell us a little bit about your practice?
Yes, sure, I'd love to. So I'm in an urgent care same-day type access clinic as well. And you know, it's interesting. I thought, oh, this is going to be so easy. Colds, flu, sore throat, UTIs, really kind of basic stuff. But the patients that we see at UCI have a lot of complex underlying medical conditions. We get a lot of the tertiary and quaternary care patients here. And so they may be coming in with a cold, but they have had a cardiac transplant.
Yeah.
They may be coming in with a cough, but they have underlying cystic fibrosis. So really it takes to, really you have to be a good critical thinker.
Yes.
And so I really try to develop that in students while we're working in clinics. So,
and I just want to make a shout out that UCI is the only UC that has a faculty practice.
That's right.
We're very proud of that, and we've made it work really well with our faculty and our students.
Right. So one of the other kind of defining features that we have at UC Irvine in our DNP program are 2 educational focused courses. So for those of you who may be interested in teaching in your future career, those courses will help to bolster your skills in curriculum development, educational leadership, etc. So those are 2 other pieces, 2 courses that add another aspect. I think that'll enrich in the experience here at UCI.
Definitely. And even if you're not interested in teaching, there's a lot of opportunities as a doctorate prepared practitioner to present and to do different educational opportunities and formats. So it's a really good thing to be able to experience and have under your belt.
Right. So let's talk about the pathways to the DNP. We have 2 pathways here at UCI. So the first one is the DNP FNP. Now this track is really designed for nurses who have a bachelor's or a master's degree in nursing, and they are really seeking that certification as a family nurse practitioner. At the same time, they'll graduate with a doctoral degree. So this is a 3-year full-time commitment. Our courses will run through the summer. Summers tend to be a little bit lighter, but students will be participate in completing in coursework in the summers as well. The other track is the DNP Postmaster's track. So this is designed for nurses with a master's degree in nursing. Now those nurses may be clinicians, administrators, leaders, educators, etc. But they want that final clinical practice degree to kind of cap off their career.
Yeah.
So that is the other piece. This is a 2-year program. There are courses again in the summer, but this is designed for students who are working, who are professionals, and they will be able to continue working while they're in that program. These students will graduate with the DNP, but they will not be educated in the nurse practitioner fundamentals. That would be for the other group that I mentioned.
So, Susan, I'm curious, if I was interested in becoming a family nurse practitioner, there's lots of programs, master's and doctorate level programs, and it seems like it would be a little bit easier and shorter to just go into a master's program.
Right.
So what's the benefit of getting your doctorate or going to a DNP program when you really want to practice as a family nurse practitioner?
Okay, so that's a good question. So we know that there are FNP master's programs that still are being run around the country, as well as FNP with a DNP. So Tiffany's like, why would you have to do the DNP? Just do a master's, a little bit shorter. So what we think, it's kind of like one and done. It's more efficient use of your time. So we have designed the curriculum so that students can complete that program in 3 years. So end of 3 years, you've got all the coursework that will allow you to sit for national board certification exam and to become certified through the Board of Registered Nursing in California, as well as having a terminal degree. Now, Tiffany, when you went to school, you did a master's and then a doctoral degree.
Yes, I did 2 different programs. So I graduated with my master's with my FNP, and then I went back after completing 2 years for another 2 years to get my DNP. And I thought, maybe I wouldn't go back to school, but eventually I'm sure most of you are going to end up going back and getting your DNP. And I wish at the time that I went to school, I had that option of just getting it done in 3 years rather than incurring an additional year of education, as well as cost and time. So yeah, it's definitely a more efficient way to do it.
Right. So I totally agree, and that's why we've designed it this way. The educational mandate that has been set forth by national organizations in nursing, the National Organization of Nurse Practitioner Faculties, and the AACN has really they've really put their stamp on the fact that they want entry-level nurse practitioners to be educated at the doctoral level with a DNP. So this is not a legal mandate, but it is an educational mandate, and so we're on board with that. We feel like this is what students need to be able to practice. The master's NP programs are so chock full of information. Students spend, our program was 72 units. That's not unusual. It's 40 units. It's a big program.
Yeah, it's a heavy load.
Yeah, so the getting a doctoral degree they'll take 98 units now for that. So we think, again, it's kind of bigger bang for your buck, more efficient use of your time.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've designed this program as a hybrid program. Now, I know there's a lot of online programs. I looked recently, I think there's about 420 programs in something like that nationally. There were 303, but that data was from last year, and there were another 124 in the works. Anyway, you have a lot of options on where to choose programs.
And it shows that there's a high demand for this online hybrid format.
Yeah. So, Tiffany, we talk a little bit about, like, what do we mean by hybrid? What do we mean by synchronous, asynchronous?
Yeah, definitely. So hybrid, is a loose term and can mean a lot of different things to different people. And so here at UCI, our hybrid program is primarily going to be online.
Okay.
This is designed for the working professional, and we want it to be easy and convenient for you so that you can continue your normal life and your normal work schedule and still complete your coursework at home in your pajamas, on Saturday morning, on Monday night, whenever is convenient for you. We will have synchronous and asynchronous coursework.
Sessions.
So which means the asynchronous coursework is the coursework that you will do on your own time. But we will also be holding synchronous sessions once a week on Thursday afternoons. And this may vary depending on your instructor and your course that you're taking. But we like to tell our students ahead of time so that they can plan that reserve those Thursday afternoons for your synchronous sessions. And it would be like meeting like we are now with your cohort of classmates and your instructor and doing some interactive learning online.
Experiences.
Yes. And then we also will ask students to come to campus once a quarter. This will be in week 9 of each quarter, and it will most likely be a 1 or 2 day visit. We wanted to make it easy and convenient for you, so we will cover the cost of parking and food. So all you have to worry about is how you're going to get here and where you're going to stay.
Okay.
And we really want to make these worth your time and worthwhile. So we want to have activities and learning experiences that you may not be able to do at home or online. We have standardized patients and different task trainers and simulators, so to really enhance and enrich your learning. And then we will also have 3 intensive sessions, and you will actually get course credit for these intensive sessions. So you'll come once at the beginning of the program, once in the middle of the program, and once at the end. And we have the prologue, the intersession, and the epilogue, and these really frame our entire DNP program. And part of that will be working on your DNP project and getting your proposal and feedback before you really dive into it, and then presenting it at the very end when you've completed your project.
So it sounds like the program really captures the essence of the convenience and ease of an online program, but also is trying to capture the human connection, the social connection, the networking, the in-person activities that you can do with your cohort, with faculty, with guest speakers and experts, etc. So I think that'll be nice. And the Thursday afternoon sessions, some of those will be, I'm not sure it'll even be every week, but the schedule will be determined far in advance.
Yes.
Our faculty are preparing their coursework now, and we have a team of instructional designers who we're working with to really make it an engaging experience for students.
Yeah, and make it easy and streamlined for you. So,
Right.
And we'll go over all of the technical stuff when you first come for the prologue, so that you're all set and ready to go, and there's no, anxiety or worry about how you're going to pursue this online degree.
Great. So let's talk about clinical placements.
Okay.
So the students that are in the DNP FNP track, so there are our customers who will be pursuing a family nurse practitioner as well as the DNP degree. So we know that a significant part of their education will require clinical placements.
Yes.
We've already talked about how we bring students with us in our clinical venues. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that's one of the things that students have questions about. Tiffany, you want to talk about that a little bit?
So, with the FNP track, you will have a significant amount of time in clinical rotations. And so If you live in the local area, we have a lot of established preceptor sites that we can place you in, not only in the family nurse practitioner realm of family practice and OBGYN and pediatrics, but also we have specialty clinics that we've established in cardiology and dermatology and the like. And these are in the areas of Orange County, San Diego, San Bernardino County, and Los Angeles. But if you don't live locally in the area, that's okay. We will work with you to try and establish preceptor sites where you live. So if you live in Sacramento, for say, we would ask that you help us identify some local preceptor sites that would be potential places to do your clinical rotations. And then we would ensure that this was an appropriate site and a good place for you to learn, and then we would vet those sites and you would be able to do your clinical rotations near where you are living. For the postmasters track, so the students that are not pursuing a FNP certification, you can do all your, what we say, clinical hours. It's basically the hours you spend working on your DNP project, wherever you are located throughout the country. You most likely will carry out your project at your place of work or somewhere locally, a community clinic, or an organization, and you can stay right where you are, and that's a little bit less cumbersome to try and figure out.
Correct. So let's talk a little bit about the scholarly project now. That the scholarly project is sort of the culmination of all bits and pieces of all your coursework that you have learned through the curriculum that we set up here, and it's a project that kind of frames the whole DNP experience. Many of you know PhD students have to complete a dissertation. So for the DNP, it's a scholarly project. It's not a dissertation. It is a practice clinically focused project.
Yes. Kind of puts all the things skills that you've learned in the program together, and then you do one big project to kind of show that you've mastered all of that.
Right. So we expect that students will conduct a project at their place of employment. And as Tiffany said, we will facilitate that wherever you are in the country for the DNP postmasters, and for the students who are in the DNP FNP, we are requiring, by the way, that you live in California. One of the reasons for that, I'm going off topic a little bit here, one of the reasons for that is because the laws governing NP practice actually vary from state to state, the scope of practice regulations. So we really feel it is very important for nurse practitioners to understand their scope of practice
in the state they're working
in. So we know that well in California. So this is why at this point we are only limiting that DNP FNP education to the California state. So the scholarly project again is something that is doable. It could be a professional or a practice issue, a policy issue, but it's something that you have discovered in your education, your training, that you'd really like to do a deep dive on and learn more about. And so we will have faculty assigned to students during year one who have expertise in the area and the topical arena that you're interested in. And we have the scholarly project designed over 5 quarters in the program, which gives students a lot of time to go through the process. So I think that's really well thought out, and I think it'll be a nice curricular design for students. And anyway, we always say the best project is a done project.
Yes.
So
completed, signed, sealed, delivered.
Done. So anyway, I think we're ready to take some questions.
Yeah, I think so.
Tina, do we have any questions from our audience?
Great, thank you so much, Susan and Tiffany. That was great. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to use our Q&A function in our webinar to go on ahead and type in your questions. For now, we have a question about, can you explain a little bit more about the clinical hours and the requirements specifically for the postmaster's track?
Sure. So the CCNE, which is the CCNE is the
accrediting
Yeah, it's
education.
it's a national accrediting agency that we will have accreditation from. We have it now for our master's and our bachelor's program. They require a minimum of 500 hours, practice hours for students in the postmasters, the DNP postmasters program. So those hours will be, for students who come in, there's a 1,000-hour requirement total, but for our students who come in the postmasters track who are already APRN certified, so for instance, if you are a CRNA, if you're a nurse midwife, a nurse practitioner, etc., then we know you've had a minimum of 500 supervised hours in your master's program. We are taking that 500 hours, that's done. So there's another 500 hours left. We have 540 hours built in with units in the postmaster's curriculum. So that will take care of that. Many students will actually spend 700, 800 hours on their project, but we have to ensure our accreditors that we are requiring a minimum of 500, and we will do that.
And this entails, performing your literature review,
Yes.
Carrying out any type of research, project design, statistics. So really, it's you get credit for working on your project throughout these 5 quarters.
Right. Those practice hours are not direct patient care. So that's different from if you're an APRN or in your master's program that you went to. The direct patient care is different. So that is diagnosis, and I think of it as diagnosis and treatment. So that's not the hours for the postmasters. The practice hours have to do directly with that scholarly project and the acquisition of those competencies and really applying those the knowledge that you've learned in our courses to this project. So I hope that answers that question.
Okay, great. So are there members of the UCI faculty, do some faculty members have a focus on acute care rather than FNP focus?
So great question. We know our faculty right now are all of our faculty are family nurse practitioners right now who are APRNs. So that we have one faculty member who is a certified nurse midwife. We have several faculty who are clinical nurse specialists. So we do not have any acute care nurse practitioners. We do have one faculty member who does a lot of work in heart failure. Heart failure patients end up in acute care a lot. Yeah. So she does a lot of research with cardiac, especially along the lines of heart failure. She's not a nurse practitioner. I believe she is a clinical nurse specialist. But our program is not an acute care NP program, just so you know. And I'll just talk a little bit about that. So there are different concentration areas in the world of nurse practitioner education. Our program in the first track is geared to family nurse practitioners. Family nurse practitioners take care of patients across a lifespan, we say from cradle to grave. And primarily our work is focused in an ambulatory setting. Now, some nurse practitioners will work in rehab, SNFs. Some will even do some of the regulatory information. It's not setting specific. So family nurse practitioners could do some hospital-based work, but they would not be educated with the same skills that an acute care NP would. So anyway, I'm happy to answer more questions pertaining to that through email, and Tina can always forward questions to me as we go along.
Okay, great. Can you speak a little bit more about the clinical rotation specifically for maternal child health care?
Sure. So Tiffany, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so actually at Anaheim, at one of our FQHC clinics, we have 2 fabulous nurse midwives that are certified in women's health. They're nurse practitioners.
Yeah, nurse practitioners.
That are certified in women's health. They have precepted many of our students.
Yeah.
And again, this is a complex population of patients and women with a lot of different issues that need to be addressed, not only physiological, but also psychosocial. And so we've been able to establish a really good relationship there. And I work beside them in clinic with them, and they're great preceptors. And we've also established some other clinical rotation sites in maternal child health. And there's another clinic in Santa Ana. It's in UCI Family Health Center. Another FQHC. I think at Ultimed, don't we have some rotations?
We have a number of clinical sites that are focus on women's health, OBGYN, and our students rotate with both obstetricians as well as midwives, as well as women's health nurse practitioners and family nurse practitioners who are focusing on doing OBGYN. And so there are a certain number of hours and cases required that we require of students. And you see patients from maybe their first prenatal visit through the third trimester, postpartum, as well as women who come in for birth control, for STDs, for
mammograms,
a variety of healthcare issues. So we have good placements. We have dedicated placements for that particular area. Yes. So
okay. Great. So can you elaborate a little bit more about the two tracks when it comes to their interaction together? Are they taking classes together, or are they going to be separate tracks?
Okay, so that's a great question. Yeah. So some of the courses will be co-seated, or you will be together virtually, and when you come to campus. So there are a number of classes. I think there's 8 classes where you will be seated together with the DNP FNP and the DNP Postmasters tracks. And it's the same content. It's doctoral level content. It captures the essentials of doctoral education and the DNP that are required by the national accreditation agencies, CCNE that I mentioned earlier. For the students who are in the FNP track, those courses will not be co-seated with a postmaster's. So for instance, pediatrics, OB, women's health, diagnosis and management of acute common illnesses, diagnosis and management of chronic illnesses across the lifespan. Those are all FNP only. They're very focused on diagnosis and management of and patient care for family nurse practitioners. So the postmaster students will not be in those classes. So for the, there'll be some of each. For the postmaster students, there are 2 education courses are required for the postmaster students. They are electives for the family DNP FNP students. So those may or may not have a few of the DNP FNP students in those courses.
And the program is designed for the FNP track. You're going to begin your coursework with some of the DNP coursework because we want to give you the content for the FNP piece towards the end so that you're prepared to take your certification exam and you don't forget everything you learned 3 years ago.
Right.
So at the beginning you more will be co-seated, and then as time goes on you'll pair off and get more into your concentration for the FNP part.
Right. Some of the courses that pertain to the scholarly project will be co-seated as well. And as Tiffany said, that's we've designed the curriculum with a lot of the doctoral level competencies up front, and that was a national recommendation. So some programs kind of tag that on at the end. And the students do all their FNP work initially, and then they tag it on. But we have kind of flipped it, and the DNP competencies come first, and then they're threaded through the program. So,
great. What is the typical salary for NPs?
Oh, so good question. So
we just looked this up.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and if you can take a look at that yourself, it's easy to find through a search engine of your choice. That might start with a G.
Yeah. Dr. Google.
The mean NP salary in the state of California is $126,000 a year, and that's the mean. So there's a range. The range I think started from about 105 and went on up. So it also varies based on setting, and it's the salaries vary all over the country. But those are numbers that I was playing around with yesterday.
It also varies by location in different cities and cost of living.
Yes.
So it can be very different. From Southern California, Northern California, from state to state.
Yes.
And then, as Susan mentioned, different specialties. Emergency medicine and NPs tend to make a little bit more than a family nurse practitioner, and so there's a wide range. But the average in California is 126.
126, yeah. And that didn't, I don't think they broke it down by NP specialty like peds or family, but anyway, take a look at that website. It's
Yeah,
pretty interesting.
the information's out there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So can you elaborate a little bit more about the differences between a PhD and a DNP degree?
Sure.
Yeah.
So PhD is really your research degree, and a DNP is a practice degree. So that's in its simplest statement, that is it. If you want to be a researcher and you have that inquiry, drive to learn more about nursing theory, generate new knowledge, conduct research in the area of nursing, then the PhD is really the degree for you. If you are more eager to expand your career in the area of practice, whether that be clinical practice, practice management, policy, that is then the coursework in the DNP would be better suited to you. I would never talk students one way or the other. If you want a research degree, you should get a PhD.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you do not want to be a researcher, but you are eager to achieve that terminal practice focused degree, then the DNP would be better suited for you. And you can take a look at the curriculum, take a look at the coursework. You can find this online, and then that will kind of speak to you if you're trying to determine what's a better choice for you.
Yeah, I kind of think of the DNP as taking what the PhD researchers have discovered and found, and taking that evidence into clinical practice and trying to figure out how to make it fit in your personalized clinical setting, and really evaluate it to see if your patient outcomes or your practice management outcomes are what you expected, and if it worked for you. So,
okay. Good.
Are there scholarships available through UCI?
So we do have two scholarship opportunities available. We have a priority admissions deadline of December 1st. The second deadline is March 1st. So December 1st is creeping up. It's already November 2nd.
I know.
I can't believe it's November. So if you can get your application in by December 1st, we have two categories of scholarships that those students will be eligible for. One is a diversity scholarship, and one is a UC Irvine School of Nursing alumni scholarship. So those are the two categories. We also will have return to aid for students who demonstrate financial aid. So for those who complete the FAFSA forms, it's the free application for federal student aid, scores will be determined, and then your eligibility for financial aid based on need will be calculated. That won't happen until after the March deadline, but those are available. There's also we have on our website, we'll be posting it if it's not posted now. There's other scholarship opportunities available to students through HRSA, through federal sources, and et cetera, different foundations. So we'll make those available for our interested applicants.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is in regards to the DNP FNP. When do I need to live in California, and can you elaborate a little bit more about the time commitment?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, for those who are interested in the DNP FNP program for that track, because the practice laws do vary across the country, we are requiring students to be in California, and that would be when your clinical rotations begin. That is winter of year 2. So the clinical rotations begin winter year 2. Your first year is all strictly coursework that does not involve patient-based care. There are some activities, community-based activities, like in our health promotions disease prevention class. So you may do a project with a local agency, but that could be that would not have to necessarily be in California. So that would be in winter of your second year, and that's when I think the hours and the rigor of the program becomes a little more intense at that point. And for the students who are in track 1, working full time may become a challenge at that point. We never want to say never, but if you have really good time management skills and organizational skills it's possible,
Yeah.
but I think many of our students will back down on their work at that point and slide into a part-time rather than full-time so that they can increase their focus on the program, which requires a lot of clinical hours and as well as coursework.
For the postmaster's DNP students, you may continue to work full-time. It's
Yeah.
going to depend on your organization, your support at home, and your situation. But I agree that the FNP track, as you ramp up your clinical hours, it may become more difficult to maintain that full-time status. But never say never, never say always. So.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Any more questions, Tina?
Yeah, so I see here that we don't have any more questions. So again, if you guys have any questions, go on ahead. I know we're running a little bit low on time right now, so go on ahead and type in your final questions. I do have a question for you, Susan.
Okay.
Will there be any other specialty tracks that we are planning for the future?
Oh, that's a great question. So we do anticipate building out more tracks in the future. I always, my idea is always, let's do this really well, and then we're going to add more tracks. Psych mental health is probably an area we will look at, and possibly acute care. So those are two areas where we've done a market analysis and needs assessment, and those were two areas that kind of lit up on that score. Family is the top. We know family is a specialty that students select nationally. I think 60% of nurse practitioners are family nurse practitioners, so it is by and large the most in demand track. But psych mental health and acute care are probably in our future, one or both.
Yeah.
So that'll be exciting because especially psych mental health, there's such a need for
huge.
providers in that who are really competent in that area. So many of our patients suffer with anxiety, depression, insomnia. Right, Tiffany?
Yes.
We see so
yes.
much mental illness in primary care. And so as family nurse practitioners, you're prepared to take care of some of that. But once you have a patient who's has more complex disease, then we really need specialty care, specialty providers to help out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any more, Tina?
Great. So I don't see us having any more questions.
Okay.
So again, if you have any additional questions, you're more than welcome to email us at gnsao@uci.edu. I do want to give you guys let you know that we are currently updating our new website as well too. So it is in the process.
Okay.
And so the current website that we have right now, you can definitely still view and check out our information, but probably within the next couple of weeks or so, our new our new website will be coming up. So, but again, if you have any questions, feel free to give us an email at gnsao@uci.edu.
Great. Yeah, we're very excited about the new website
Yeah.
that is coming soon. So
It looks great.
Thank you for being with us. It was fun to share some information. I hope we were able to answer some of your questions. And again, Tina's available through through the email for questions. And Tina and I work very closely together, and Tiffany's right there as well. So look forward to seeing your applications.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you for joining us. Have a good weekend.
Have a great weekend. Okay, bye.